Welcome everyone to our third episode of the GTR Player Podcast. We are joined here today with none other than Rhys from Threes to Wound. Rhys, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me, man. Very, very happy to be here. Big fan of the show. What are we now? This will be the third episode in. Very excited to be here.
Third episode, mate. That's very, very kind coming from someone like yourself, basic podcast royalty, So from my perspective, it's an honor to have you on the show because I've been a listener for a long time and we'll get into that shortly, but great to have you here. And today's episode is all about, building your first kill team, some assembling and painting basics. And given that I've had the pleasure of hosting you at some of the tournaments and seeing what you've been able to put on the table, I think this is a perfect episode for yourself, mate. Before we get stuck into it, mate, why don't you give the listeners a bit of insight into you, your journey with Kill Team, that some of the content you've created from way back early on in the day, and give us an insight to the Melbourne scene, if you wouldn't mind, because it's great to have a fellow Australian on the call, but at the same time, different states. Would love to get your insight on the scene down south and some of the action that's been happening there.
Yeah, I mean, well, look, separate states in Australia is like different countries. We know that. There's a little bit of distance between a lot of the capitals here. But Kill Team's been one of those games that's been really, really near and dear to my heart for a long time. I was on it, from, I guess, when it was the Kill Team that was basically baby Warhammer, when initially it was just that game that was designed to be Warhammer, but when you don't have enough time or you don't have enough models, start here.
Yeah, definitely. A cut down version. We heard similar from John Sow in episode 1, right? And so, what was your experience with first edition, and then where did it really kick off for you?
Yeah, well, it was, the good thing, although we look back now and we're blessed with where the game is now, and that's the benefit of hindsight, we can look back. But the one great thing that I do remember with the first one, the early editions was that opportunity to get friends involved in the game without having to have that big jump on point. I was sort of one of the first amongst my friendship group to get back into the game, to sort of go, I think, a lot of people have that hiatus away from wargaming and hobby. You have a bit of time away and then you come back and go, man, I really missed that. So I sort of jumped back in and I was like, I need a bit of a gateway to get my friends on board and get them committed to playing some games. So it was a great way for me to use, a couple of armies that I had or a couple of teams that I had to get mates over, to have a bit of a drink together, catch up and play some wargaming. So that was the thing that the catalyst for me. It's always been a really social game. That's my favorite thing. I consider myself a people person. I love hanging out with people and talking nonsense, and playing this game is a great excuse to either catch up with mates or make new friends at tournaments or casual games as well. So that was my gateway for myself back into it, but also unluckily for my friends, them as well.
Yeah, no, definitely. That's the magic of it, right? I mean, aside from being, small 40K, the way it's designed is to have the opportunity to not have a game be so dragged out or get stuck into the weeds, but fast, punchy. And to your point, I think because it's punchy, it's community orientated, right? Because you can go to a meetup, like when we play on Wednesday nights, we'll have our league game and then people will be like, okay, who's up for number 2? And you might get another quick game in with somebody you might not connect with so obviously or so regularly. So that's the thing I love about it as well. But it transitioned from first edition to second edition. We've said this on both episodes prior to this. That's where it really kicked off for people, right? What was your experience or first experience with second edition, and which team did you gravitate towards?
Well, I've been a Gene Steel occult player for a long time, with a lot of things, and that was my first, I guess, faux first edition. But when the new one launched, the Wormblade was the direction I went with. It was such a classic. Like, I just loved the tricks, the shenanigans. That's always been the sort of play style that I enjoy the most. I'm not the most technically gifted player, but I enjoy the feeling of having tricks, lots of units you can throw away to create traps and do things like that. So the Wormblade were my nearest and dearest for a long while there, just because I love the models, and especially painting Gene Steel Occult as it's a Horde army. painting a kill team is much more achievable and much more enjoyable. So
I'd have to say Wormblade were the first, I think, authentic gotcha team for
yes,
Kill Team Second Edition, because you didn't know what you were up against, right?
that's
And
it. Yeah.
you could mix and match a bit, right? It was an expensive team to do a full, roster on back when rosters were a thing. But yeah, it was definitely the team, I think, that got you, especially with models like the Locust, just absolutely decimate you without even knowing what you're up against.
That's it. We love tricks. Like that's what's so good now with Kill Team. We're so blessed across so many of the teams. There's lots of each team has that feeling and their shenanigans. But I still love like now. Obviously, there's the Brood Brothers sort of variation, which is now sort of I haven't quite shifted across yet. But there's a lot of teams now that if you do like that tricky gotcha plays, there's lots of options to play that. You don't have to play the game one way, which is great.
And what about Reveners? Are they on the horizon for you potentially? Going full-blooded Tyranids?
I mean, I actually played against them for the first time on the weekend past at a tournament, and it was an experience. They definitely got my interest. When you do play a team and it beats you, you go, maybe I could do that to someone.
Beware the tunnel. Beware the tunnel.
Exactly right. Yeah, I'm like, it's easy. You know where it is. Just avoid it. Turns out it's a bit harder than you realize.
It's disgusting. It really is. I've come up across them a couple of times, and I dare say I'm going to be playing with them against my next match in the league, and I'm actually a bit worried about them. 7, I'm coming for you, mate. So be warned. But Rhys, you're the content you've been creating for a while now, as Threes to Wound, and now under the Battle Brothers tabletop banner, massive shout out to Ben and Russ. I'm a huge fan. You've seen me join live on Twitch when you guys have been on my way to a meeting. Appreciate the shout outs there, but give us a bit of a history with regards to where you started and where you are now with the boys.
Yeah, well, obviously, yeah. First of all, you're a friend of the show, and we love it. Yeah. So the Kill Team Casuals has been running. I think we're looking back the other day. I think it's been nearly 2.5 years we've been running now, and that kind of often surprises us because it's like living up to the name of Kill Team Casuals. We are very cowboy and cavalier about our schedule and when we show up, and but I also think that's part of what makes our show endearing. It's like a pleasant surprise when we all manage to get there.
The stick you throw each other when one of you isn't, right?
Oh, yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's half the fun is who can we paste, who can we make a story up about for not being there, and the reasons they can't be there is that's pretty much the most fun. But yeah, it was one of those things. Obviously, being a fan of Kill Team for a long time and getting into the game, that was in those early days, the Wild West of Kill Team. For myself, like I love content. I've got a background in TV and video production and cinema. And I was kind of like, I was craving more content. So for myself, I was like, you know what? Got a little bit of time. I've got a few skills here and there. I'm like, I'm just going to throw my hat in the ring and start trying to create some Kill Team content that I would like to see, because I'm like, what are we missing? And there was some, don't get me wrong. It's not to say there was not any, but it's like when you compared it to 40K, which just, you are so spoiled for choice. There is content for years if you want to keep watching and keep digging. But Kill Team, there was always sort of those main 2 or 3 channels. And then if they weren't your cup of tea, or if you'd watched them all, which is what kept happening to me, I kept being up to date, there was nothing else to keep absorbing. So I kind of threw my hat in the ring and started making some faction guides and a few videos on, like, I guess, where I was coming from getting started. So being that beginner. And then it just so happened to be at the same time, as you mentioned, Ben from Battle Brothers Tabletop was started to do a similar thing, and Russ from GFN Gaming as well. And because we were kind of dropping content at the same time, we were just kind of, I guess, being a bit supportive as you want to be in the community. We were commenting on each other's videos and, just shouting them out and sharing them. And we ended up just doing a few collabs here and there, and it just kind of snowballed. We're like, wait, we're actually really enjoying talking Kill Team, on Discord, chatting together and all that stuff. We're like, we should just start doing a podcast. We could do that. Podcasts are easy, right? Anyone can do one. And then we worked out the actual logistics of the fact that one of us, Ben's in the US, Russ is in the UK, and I'm in Australia. So we learned a lot about time zones very quickly.
I think it's almost like the start of a joke. You got an Aussie, a Pom, and a Yank sitting in a room,
Yeah.
What do you get?
And
A
they want to start a
podcast.
podcast, about Kill Team. Yeah. So it was one of those things, but we just sort of like, you know what, I'm sure we'll just juggle it and we'll try and make it work. And it's been one of those things, I think, because we've and it's been amazing watching, I guess, that journey of where we did start. Like if I go back and watch our first episodes and we laugh, like it was barely holding on, we barely got everything connected, and now we've got all the new gear and we've got new better technology, and we still are like renowned for our technical difficulties that we can still pull together every week. But the show gets done and we have a whole bunch of fun doing it. It's a great place. We like to think it's a really welcoming and warm place. For anyone who enjoys Kill Team, if you're a casual, there's stuff for you. Like I'm definitely flying the banner the hardest for the casuals, but we also go right up to, Ben plays some very high level Kill Team. He plays with some big sharks over there in Florida. Russ plays some great Kill Team. He does a lot of stuff with tournaments. We all love our hobby. We love all those aspects of it. So we try to make sure we cover wherever you are on that spectrum of Kill Team, that we've got chat for you. And if you join us live, like you do yourself, you get to talk to us live. You get to join in the chat, tell us your thoughts, share what, your thoughts and opinions. And that's our favorite part. You get live feedback. Did we just do a terrible hot take, or is everyone on board? We love that feedback.
And the riddle games you guys run, right? I was privy to one of those. I'm like, wow, what's going on here?
Legions of Rust. Yes.
Legions of Rust. That's it.
And that was, again, a madcap thing that Russ was just like, I've just got this idea for like a guessing game about like Space Marine Legions. And he just sort of pitched us to us one day, and we're like, why not? We'll see what happens.
It's amazing. Now, before we cut into the serious stuff, you're not the only content creator in your family, are you, mate?
No, unfortunately, it turns out that I would never claim that I'm a big deal, but people go, oh, look, you've got quite a few followers. You must be doing good. And I'm like, you should see my wife's gaming stuff. She's got me covered. JJ Bink, if you wanted to look her up, she does Sims gaming content, and she is a fantastic gamer and builder in that space.
She is.
I know if you think Kill Team Casuals is chaotic, you should see her build on a live stream. It's even more chaotic. So that's why we're a perfect match.
That's crazy, man. That's so good. I'm very envious of that relationship because, you're both nerding on your own levels, but, you understand each other. And some of the content you're creating now as well, I see a lot of collabs between you and her for 40K and some Kill Team earlier on. So it's so great to see that it's a bit of a family event, when you're creating content together. It's actually really cool. It's actually really cool.
We're very blessed that we both get what the other one does, and sometimes that can be difficult. Like she doesn't necessarily want to ever play Warhammer, and we've made a lot of fun of that in a lot of our videos, but she's fully supportive and she gets why I'm passionate about it, and the same's for her. So we love getting in each other's realms to make fun of the other person for their fun, but it's because we get it. We get the passion.
That's absolutely phenomenal. And made a quick cut into the Vic scene. So where have you been playing? What have you been doing?
Yeah, so we're lucky down here. I mean, we've got a few different sort of hotspots here and there, but another friend of the show from the Kill Team Casuals who joins in the chat there as well, Lapscallion down here in Melbourne does a great job running tournaments down here, and that's where I was at the Melbourne Open just the other weekend. So that seems to be there, and the gaming arena in Coburg as well as another one seems to have pretty thriving and regular games, either at plenty of games in the city or there with tournaments. Usually when they get a bit more upscaled. So yeah, it's one of those things. I guess my main gaming side is with my mates. That's the closest thing. That's sort of, we talked a bit earlier about. That's my favorite thing to do is me and my mates want to catch up. We mumbled a bit there, but me and my mates want to catch up. We lock in a game of Kill Team we try to do it once a month, and it's funny because we're all, and I hope this is relatable for a lot of people, but a lot of us are new dads or newish dads, and you find out that hobby gets a little bit hard at times, juggling work-life balance, hobby, passions, looking after yourself. So we try to make a real concerted effort to go once a month. We find a night. The four of us sort of get together. We have 2 games going, and we've got a round robin kind of system, and there's a championship belt.
That's phenomenal.
And that's just great because it gives us that excuse to catch up. It gives us that excuse to roll some dice, build your teams, work on, and then we rotate teams every so often. We go, okay, this season's over. Everyone pick a new team, and the next season begins, and we get into it, which is great.
It's phenomenal. Look, I've got a pocket of friends down in Melbourne as well, and every time I come down, like I've got them hooked on Kill Team, but they're playing a lot of previously narrative, now solo and co-op with each other.
Oh,
So
nice.
massive shout out to Dave and Simon down there in South Bank, absolute legends, closet nerds, but love Kill Team. So can't wait to go down and see them as well. Yeah, but massive shout out to the Gaming Arena, Diff and team. Great spot if you're ever in Coburg, but solid spot, and obviously plenty of games as well. I've been down there many times. Phenomenal spot also, and really supportive. Both stores really supportive of the community. It's so great to see. But Rhys, again, I've seen how much effort you put into modeling, having hosted you a few times now and seeing what you've actually put on the table, and, you're blooded, that you fielded last time, and some of the amazing things there. We've spoken previously, with John Sauer about the love for Kill Team and why people should play it. Hosted Lynn and Annette on episode 2 around choosing your faction. What I'd love to cover with you in this episode is, unboxing your first Kill Team, and assembling and painting basics, because you do it so well. And, when we think about, unboxing your Kill Team, it's really exciting when you've got your first Kill Team, right? You're about to get stuck into it. We've all done it. We've cracked it open, and the rule of cool, or the power of, has been too strong. And we haven't really thought about what we're building. We're just like, oh, this looks cool. Sometimes we build them and realize, oh, maybe we should have done a better job at just, holding back a little bit, asking a few questions, checking the interwebs and stuff. What advice can you give, first-time players or people building a new team with regards to unboxing and preparing for assembly?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. I definitely hugely guilty of just getting the box and going. I'm going ham. I'm just going to build whatever that looks the coolest. I've still got regrets that my Felgor, leader's has got the plasma pistol instead of the bolt pistol now, because that's the much better choice, and because I missed out on the chainsword. And we can have those regrets, when you look back and buy things. I think my Brood Brothers, I got a couple. In retrospect, I'm like, probably should have done some of the other specialists. The biggest thing, though, when it is your first team, it's completion over perfection. The aim of the game is that you want to get whatever the team is on the table to play. So don't be too hard on yourself, because, whether it's your first game with mates, your first tournament, whatever, you're choosing to sort of get back in this, there's no right or wrong answer. The internet will tell you differently. Be careful on Reddit. It'll tell you some pretty harsh truths. But, I'm here to tell you, as also one of those voices, that if you get it wrong, don't stress, because, the Kill Team's one of the most easy to get into games. Most of the teams, or a large portion of the teams, are one box. So you can get started, get the team out, and do build the ones that you love. Because if you think the plasma gun is cool because you just really want to do some OSL, and a cool glowing effect on the plasma gun, yes, it might not be as good as it once was, but that's okay. I think that the more important thing is that you get that team painted to a standard you're happy with. If that's your first models you're painting, completion over perfection is the best way to do it. Like, painted is better than not painted. Built is better than not built, versus is it correctly built. I've made those mistakes, but it's also, don't get lost in the weeds and get analysis paralysis. You just want to play games, and I think that's the best place to be. Is get it, build it. I think you mentioned earlier, build it slowly. Do take the time, if you've got it, to get rid of some mold lines and things like that, because you'll thank yourself for it looking a little bit nicer when it's done. And obviously following the instructions is a big one, so you don't end up having to pull an arm off someone to stick it back on someone else. Also done that one. But yeah, just think of it that way. It's like you're there building this team to play games, and you can always adjust and change things as you go on. You get better, trust me.
Definitely. And look, rosters are a thing of the past, right? We lost rosters in second edition, but with regards to choosing your models to complete compliant kill team to put on the table, we've got some guides there in either the PDFs you can download online with regards to your leader model, and then goons, and then specialists and so forth. that also provides a good guide, right, for you to base how you're assembling your models of, while combining the rule of cool as well as getting them on the table as fast as possible, right, to have that first game.
Well, that's one of the best things. Like we're now blessed, as you might say, in this current
Yeah.
period that we've got the app. We've got an up-to-date app that keeps all the rosters and the guys you should be building and how to make a functional team at your fingertips if you're on your phone, wherever on your iPad. You've got the books that obviously are really good. Most of the kits now come with the cards and sorry, not the cards, but come with the tokens and everything in it. Like the details there to get that correct team built are so much more accessible. Warhammer Community's got all the teams and everything on there. So absolutely. And some might lament the loss of rosters, but also there is some benefit to slimming the options a little bit because it can help everyone have a bit of a more even playing field. That if you're playing this team, well, there's a pretty good chance I'm going to face these models. And maybe there's one or two ins and outs, but there's a consistency across most teams, which can be really great when you're getting started.
Definitely. You spoke about, checking things like mold lines and so forth. I couldn't agree with you more because, my first team, being Pathfinders after I purchased the box of Octarius, I assembled the Pathfinders first, not finding the mold lines on all of my models really stood out like a sore thumb afterwards, and I did rush to get them on the table. And had I spent maybe an extra 10 minutes with the back of my scalpel just scraping those lines off, I look at them now, they're on the shelf. I look at them now and I'm like, oh my God. But yeah, no, definitely. It's worthwhile, taking a little bit of effort and just doing things like that. Now, I again, seeing some of the models you've brought to some of the tournaments and seeing your paint schemes, I'm in awe of some of them, right? And some of the detail you go to painting them. How should somebody think about painting a paint scheme? Because we've obviously got detail from the lore, for example, and Pathfinders as an example. You can paint Farside Enclaves, you can paint Borkan, you can paint many schemes. What are some of your inspirations with regards to paint schemes on some of the models you've done? And what would you recommend people look at?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those funny things. I mean, there's so many things in life that can draw inspiration. GW itself does a fantastic job. Like, if you like a faction, you can probably see, a Space Marine painted in any color you can think of. There's a plethora of different options of everyone. Chaos Space Marines, even as I said, the Tau, the different septs and all that sort of stuff. They've got lots of different options. My favorite sort of starting point usually is I'll pick like what's, I guess the strong primary color I'd like to go. So I might be like, geez, I reckon this Space Marine would look fantastic in red, but I don't want to do Blood Angels. But I go, but now I've got red as like what I want to be my base color. And you can go to the internet. The internet's fantastic. You can type Space Marines red, and there's, again, there's Reddit, there's Pinterest, there's all the Instagram. I love to trawl through and look at amazing color scheme things. Or you can even go a little bit rogue. And my weird favorite thing to do, and maybe it's a bit more, I wouldn't say it's advanced because a lot of people do it, but I use a lot of like triadic color wheels and stuff like that. So I'll sort of go, red's my primary color, and you can just use that on a browser, on your computer, on your phone. It's a really easy thing. Just type like triadic color wheel or color wheel up, and you can find either like complementary or contrasting colors really, really easy. So before you know it, you might go, okay, I'm going to go, that's my primary. Oh, that's now giving me my secondary. Oh, and here's the third color, which will also work, which I can do on some detail stuff. So that's sort of a great way, as again, especially for the thing like a Space Marine or something that's going to be big block colors. That's fantastic. And then the other thing to think, like we mentioned my blooded team before, like I just went on that one. I was like, well, I'm going to have a theme. And so I converted some World Eaters, what are they called? Jackals, to be the blooded. So instead of being Trader Guardsmen, they were meant to be like berserker kind of cultists. And my inspiration was I've got Night Lords that I play in 40k. I was like, well, they're going to be like from a world like Nostromo. So I was like, that meant they have to have black eyes, and I want them to have pale skin. And so as you kind of develop that storyline of like how you think they should be, it's amazing how the color scheme kind of makes itself, and you go, you just follow tutorials. How do I paint pale skin? YouTube will give you 1,000 options. Oh, that one's got a bluish tint to it. Now it fits, and stuff like that.
So you basically saying you were the reason goremongers were created?
I'm not saying I'm the reason, but I have checked my house for cameras, at least in the hobby room anyway.
Because like literally when goremongers came out, I'm like, these guys look familiar, right? And then I
I mean,
remember
Games Workshop would be like, "We made the jackals, you idiot," and I'm like, "Hey, I'm just saying. I think I wrote the law, okay?"
gold, absolute gold. And Rhys, tell me how important, because I've seen some of the output again, super impressed by it. How important is priming for you and your models?
It's one of those things. It's easy to gloss over or to I guess go, oh, this is the easiest step. And it is in a lot of ways, but I'd probably say as I've started to paint more and more, it's probably that step that you start to respect more and more. And if you get it right and you get that base coat color, especially when you watch like guys like Eons of Battle on YouTube, when you watch him paint, it's very rare his base coat is just a black. It's usually, some kind of two-tone to give that bit of like, I wouldn't say slap chop because his stuff's far too good for slap chop, but it's got that vibe. He used that two-tone to give a bit of color and light contrast. Or he'll use a particular red, that then when it has a different color put over it, will totally surprise you as to what that result will turn out. So it's a great place to start. Keep it simple. Nice, smooth rattle cans will get you a great finish. But especially as you get more and more into it, it's a great place to start experimenting with what results you can get by starting, very differently from the get-go.
Yeah, I've seen some basic techniques as well with regards to those highlights you just mentioned, which actually do a very basic but very compelling OSL element, right?
Mm-hmm.
And also you can enhance on that as well. But making sure you get an even amount of paint from multiple angles really helps as well, especially if you're wanting to showcase these on a bit more of a diorama, which we'll get into later. But priming basics is paramount in my opinion, even though I don't paint much, curse of a TO, but when
just
I
lots
do,
of terrain, just heaps of terrain.
But when I do, I make sure the priming's done. So when I get to it at a later stage, it's there, right? And techniques, you just mentioned a couple of techniques there. What are some of the ones you like to use? Because I know a lot of people, and Seven, who's my opponent in the league coming up, he does this really well. I mean, he's almost perfected the art of slap chop, which can be really compelling. But what are some other techniques you like using, Rhys?
Yeah, I think it's one of those things. Often we look at, like especially I found this myself, and I wonder if it's a common thread for a lot of people. But when you do get into the world of painting and you start to look at different techniques and you want to learn, there's definitely lots of options. But there's also sometimes a weird, kind of gatekeeping feeling on some techniques of painting. Like a lot of people will go, "Oh, dry brushing is cheating." Tell you what, it's not cheating. It's a fantastic tool to get some really, really good effects and can be used multiple ways to, get different effects on different models. Same as using things like stippling and things like that, using sponges with little bits of paint to do little bits of chip damage. I think there's no good or bad or right way to paint. They're all just different techniques. Some people don't like contrast paints. I tell you this, I love them because they're a fantastic tool. They can be used more than one way. If you're just getting started, they're fantastic. Give your model a great little, black undercoat, put some white or gray from the top to give it a bit of tonal, and put some contrast paint. You're going to feel so much better about your paint because it's already starting to look like like you're improving without having to do much. And that technique is great. You've learned new skills. You've learned about doing those kind of sprays. You've learned about, that's why you get the contrast paint because it shows through a bit. And now I don't have to shade as well. And the next time you do it, though, you might go, oh, now I'm going to try, instead of doing a dry brush for highlight, I will try edge highlighting. And it's that gradual build on your skill set. And that's for myself. I'm not by any stretch of the imagination saying I'm one of those top tier painters, but I consider myself a good mid tier. And I'm happy to be in that space because I don't want to spend 40 to 60 hours on one model. I want to get teams on the table. So for myself, that's what my journey's been, is going, how do I get a really, models that I'm super happy with in an acceptable time frame of work-life balance. So that's been my journey, taking advantages of those things that can give you a bit of a shortcut. but still make you happy and feel proud when you get those models on the table is the things that I really look for.
No, definitely. And as you try out those techniques, you get more familiar with them, and you're
Yeah.
quicker at them and more detailed with them, and you get the models even better looking on the table even faster, right?
That's exactly right. And that's what I said. And that's, fundamentally for myself, like I probably say I paint to play. And that's for yourself too, probably working out. Like if you can just be a painter and never play the game, and that's absolutely amazing. You'll enjoy that deep dive into the painting. You can be somewhere in the middle where you're like, I'm going to spend hours and hours painting, but I'm still going to get them on the table, just maybe not as much. And it's like finding where you are in that area will also help you look up and find the right techniques that will keep you happy with your hobby as well.
Yeah, definitely. Look, I think a couple of guys that are worth shouting out now are Broseph from Victoria, who plays really well, but paints really well too.
Yes.
Alexa, who we all know, who plays extremely well, but then paints really well also. Yep. And Mikey, aka Exarch, who's a phenomenal painter and a great player as well. And I think that I'd call these guys all-rounders essentially, because they paint really well, they play really well, they're great members of the community and show a ton of support. So massive shout out to those guys. What's your experience with washes? Have you used the wash? Not contrast, but more wash, so recess style techniques.
Definitely. I started that's probably where I probably came through, I guess, the traditional school of Games Workshop painting, if you will, for want of a better term, where it was where Duncan. I was watching Duncan's tutorials and learning two thin coats before he went out and was doing two thin coats. But washes are fantastic, and again, knowing how and when to use them is one of the great sort of things of I guess parts of your journey. Initially, that's it. Slap all your base coats down, wash the whole model, and it's automatically going to, a bit of Nuln Oil or Agrex Earthshade to make it look a little bit darker and grimier is fantastic. But then what you'll sort of find, you'll transition from doing the whole model to all of a sudden you might go, okay, well, the metals are now going to get Nuln Oil because I like that better. It gives me a better metallic effect. But the clothes are going to look better if I do Agrax because that's going to give me, that grimier feel that I want with the clothes. And then you might be like, okay, then you go to the other colors. There's things like greens, which can add interesting hues to metals and things like that. And even things like when you move from being a Space Marine painter that's putting the whole thing in the wash to all of a sudden you're doing recess shading where you're just running those washes in a thin line directly into the washes so you don't have to touch up the rest of the model and it's not bringing the saturation and color down on the rest of the model. So washes are a fantastic thing. Again, they're a fantastic tool to the arsenal. They are a great entry point and everyone should be sort of starting and mucking around with those for sure. It's a great place to start, but you will find that as you paint more and more, you'll use them slightly differently. And it's a great sign to show you're learning.
100% on the terrain side of things. I'm mucking around with technicals at the moment, and oxidization on copper. Yes. That's a lot of fun. That's a lot of fun with sponges and so forth, making it look like the copper's actually oxidizing. It looks insanely good. But that's like when you go to oil, there's people who do fantastic stuff with oils and there's so many things too. And that's the great thing is every time you kind of think you've kind of clocked it or you're happy, you might just try that new technique. You might get the learn one. I've got my airbrush that's been sitting there for so long that I just know is a rabbit hole that I need to head down to really maximize it and find out all the tricks and techniques in there as well. Oh, it's phenomenal. And completing your model, getting all the appropriate paint on there, it looks like a amazing crescendo to the end of painting a model or a team. Talk to me about varnishing and finishing. Is there anything you do in that space to protect the paint?
Yeah, it's definitely worth a lot of the time I'll do just a matte kind of sealant over the top when I'm happy and I've got all my transfers on and I'm like paintbrush down, we're done. And that's more just to avoid my own clumsiness. Knocking terrain onto my own models, knocking my models off terrain, the classics. I'm knocking other people's models onto my models, just all of it.
No, definitely. But what tips have you got there? Matte for models and, kind of gloss for terrain, or what do you use?
Yeah, I mean, I'm one of those people, and I'm sure there'll be people who will be ready to tell me I'm wrong, but I usually just prefer matte because for myself by that point, whether it's terrain or models, I'm usually like I painted it and got the look I wanted, so I just want to seal it. I'm not trying to alter or change, but there's obviously a lot to be said for doing those things, and obviously again, when I mentioned Eons of Battle again, watching the way he uses those different kind of things to lock it in at different stages of the painting, especially when you're using different mediums. If you are using oils or you're using different techniques and oxidization of different things as well, you might find that has a set sealant you'll want to use because it has a specific purpose. I'd probably say my knowledge of that is pretty mundane, only because for me, I haven't found the need yet, but it's definitely on the to-do list of things. So mine's more safety
Safety
versus
first.
technique right now. Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. And look, I've seen some really striking mini painters, professional grade painters also do weathering after they've applied a varnish just so it looks a bit better. Have you had any experience with that with regards to weathering effects?
Yeah, weathering is one of those interesting things. It's one of those. I've learned a lot by trial by fire with weathering, because there's having no weathering doesn't necessarily always fit with the 41st millennium. It's meant to be that grim dark feeling in a lot of cases. So having none is not great, but you can also take it too far, and I've definitely done that as well, where it looks like I've left my model out in the backyard for 6 weeks and then dug it back up and brought it back into the house, and you've kind of undone your hard work. So that's the great thing with the weathering, and that they said using sponge techniques, chipping kind of things, understanding how to give that idea of that war gear has been used but still maintained is a fine line. And even there can be little things like small bits of dry brush, just of metallics, just on the edges of armors, just to make it look like the paint's sort of starting to flake or crack off, or if you're getting like matching your base and getting some of that color up onto the greaves and legs of your soldiers, so it looks like they've been walking through that terrain for a while. That's my favorite sort of thing, is to make it at the base. That I usually use the base to give me the inspiration for what the weathering might be, and then wanting to give the weapons and the war gear that feeling that it's loved but being in use. So you're wanting to get the barrels and using things like washes and contrast, give it look like the end of the barrels obviously been at high heat for a long time, so it's got that bluish red tinge because it's been superheated so many times. Little things like that I think are great weathering.
When you mention that, I think the person who's perfected that is mhbanz, El Miniaturista. Have you seen his work?
Yes.
Oh my God, his plasma, his glowing plasma is next level.
That's it. Yeah, and that's it. OSL stuff, lighting sources, all those things as well. Like, it's usually you're doing that after you sort of painted a lot of the model, and then you're like, okay, well now I've got to add some light sources in. And again, it's always start small and build up, because you'll absolutely kick yourself if you start big. You can't go backwards.
No, and there's another Australian professional painter who also has his stuff on Warhammer Community. His Vulcan was showcased in Warhammer Community, Liam Howell. So Liam paints stuff on Instagram. His flames on Vulcan, as well as the rest of his salamanders, is insane. So if you want like glowing flame effects, check out his stuff. How important is basing to you, Rhys? Do you go all out on basing?
It's one of those ones. Again, completion over perfection. It depends on the model. Usually with like big centerpiece units, or if it's a kill team, I'll definitely spend more time. But obviously, sometimes if you're building an army, it can definitely be that thing that you kind of, you get a technical paint and you can just kind of churn it out. But it's definitely been something I've been enjoying more and more. Starting to spend more time on the base, and I sort of mentioned it a bit before. Yeah, using the base as well to tell a bit of the story about the model, and there's kind of that little bit of storytelling you can really do by, it can be as simple as adding some skulls to the base or some tufts of grass. Like myself, I'm loving just finding all the different weird kind of tufts and alien tufts and plant life you can start to get for bases now has become a little bit of, I guess, the next step of my basing journey, because I really love that. And you see people do some great stuff, using cork sheets and breaking that off to create those rock textures and then texture paints over that. So there's a lot of interesting ways, 3D printed stuff where you can get looks like a Space Hulk kind of base and stuff like that. That's sort of what I used for my Death Watch this last one, because I was on a very tight time limit, but I was like, well, I still want them to look like they're on a mission, doing something. So getting that and then adding some rust and dirty effects to that to give it a bit of run down feel helps add to the story that they're on this busted up Space Hulk hunting Xenos, and that's awesome.
Yeah, no, I saw a guy paint the Raveners and then have them on a grass world, and you're thinking to yourself, are they invading that grass world? And then you'll see some on Sector Imperialis bases, and you're like, oh, they're protecting their home world, right?
That's
so
it.
That
And
little
so that
story piece,
adds it in, doesn't it? It makes you go, oh. And I remember, I heard you mention, I think in the episode 1 about, and I can't remember his name, so I do apologize, but the guy who did like the pirate orcs at the kill team, and that was the same thing. Each of the bases was all themed to fit in with the diorama, and I'm like, that level of thinking is fantastic. Like, I love that level of storytelling, and that's the level I want to get to. I just always, I don't.
Yeah, no, like life, right? But no, Cameron did an amazing job when he signed up for the Purge. He's like, oh, a diorama's okay. I'm like, of course they're okay, mate. And here I am thinking he was going to come in with a little board and maybe some things, but no, the models actually had cannons, pirate cannons, and he free-handed their skull markings on the backs of their jackets and vests. And then when he had them in this like little almost Pirates of the Caribbean beach cave, it was just, oh my God. And he had other characters on there as well, right? Dioramas. Yeah. I mean, all the bases told the story, but when you put them on the diorama, it all just came together, like your point. Look, he has probably set the standard for Australia, but I know that if you go to some of the LA events and you see, like, I know at the All Valley Team Championships that Dakota runs over there, my goodness, do they have some dioramas? And it's almost like they carry them around on a portable diorama. Like they're already sitting on the diorama and they just dump it down and take the models off. And some of the stuff, if you've seen some of the reels, they're insane, Rhys.
And that's the thing, isn't it? For a lot of people, that's the next step in the hobby too, isn't it? Like, a lot of people, especially in Kill Team, you find are hugely loyal to their Kill Team. They'll play one team, a lot of people, for a long, long time. And it's like, that's the next step, isn't it? Well, I'm going to 2 or 3 tournaments maybe this year. So you know what? Not only that, but I'm gonna have my team painted really well, but they're gonna have a story and they're gonna have a feel. Like, there's a dude I play against, Aaron, and he always has like a chimera when he brings his Cassican out. And it's just why? It's because that's part of it. That's part of the team. That's their chimera. And I'm like, those little details, it's so great because it's part of the story, isn't it?
That's phenomenal. And are you basically geeing yourself up to bring something amazing to KTSO?
It's been one of those crazy ones. I have just analysis paralysis to even which team to bring, because like I very recently painted the said on the tight schedule, but I'm still very proud of them, the Death Watch. But I've got a feeling there'll be a lot, and I'd like to go, well, not anti-meta, because that would mean I'm going to actually win something, but anti what everyone is going at the time. Felgor got a run there last time. I've brought the Blooded up to another one as well, and I'm like, do I have time to think of something unique? So I'm going to do my best. I'm going to keep that one under wraps for now. I've got to work out what my plan is. Maybe if it is a team I've run before, maybe I will try and do something special with their base. Not quite a pirate ship, but something, unique to give them a bit of story.
Something solid, mate. I think there's going to be a lot of Death Watch represented at KTSO. I think there'll be some Canoptech Circle as well, but
yes,
my guess is that there'll be a good mix of teams, and I know for a fact Hyrotech are still a solid contender, playing them couple of nights ago.
Oh, they're still very good.
They're still very, very good. Well, Rhys, thinking about, unboxing your first team, putting them together, getting them on the table, thinking about painting schemes and everything you've been able to share, from color variations right through to basing effectively different painting techniques and finishes and so forth. Aside from all of that, is there any sweet nuggets you've got in terms of hobby advice you want to give to people?
Ooh, that's a good one. You will get better is the biggest one. And that sounds, I know that might sound a bit reductive, or a bit like I'm talking down to people, but I'm not, because it can be so daunting. Like, I still remember when, like, I got my first models after getting back into it after so long, and it was, I think the classic 5 Space Marines I painted for the first time, and the Ultramarines, and I've still got them in my display case because it's a fantastic reminder of how far you came. And there's nothing wrong with them. Like, they're A-okay. They're blue. They're Ultramarines, because of course they have to be the first things you paint. But
Yeah, correct.
But it's that thing that each time you start a new team or you start a new model, I think the big tidbit I'd say is try something new. Like, don't be afraid to go like, oh, I know this works, and so I'll do all of them that same way. Yes, you will. Like that, you'll get them done, and that's really, really good. But if you just try, and it can be one small part, it can be just doing the metallic slightly different, or it can be watching a lot of the, you just jump on YouTube. There's so many amazing painters out there who can give you those little tidbits, and just try different things. I think we all, especially at the start of the hobby too, get the hobby buying bug, and we end up with more models than we need as well. So don't be afraid for one kill team or one unit to not turn out perfect in the sense that you tried something new, because the next ones will be even better. And that's the thing too. You just keep trying new techniques, keep trying new things, and talk to people. If you go to a tournament or you're at your friendly local game store and you see someone that's done something really cool, don't be afraid to ask them. People love talking about the hobby. People will love to share how they did something, just like what they usually will love to talk painting the game. Those that love painting will be super happy to talk to you about their techniques and what they did. And I reckon that's probably where I've learned some of the best things, has actually been talking to people in person and seeing their models and go, dude, that's amazing. How the hell did you do it? So don't be afraid to ask.
Yeah, no, definitely. One nugget I'll share as well on the assembly piece. You can get the Revel or GW syringe style cement that often gets clogged. I'm
All the time.
a Tamiya white pot brush cement person.
Yes.
When the brush no longer reaches, I grab a paper clip out and I dab it in the base, and I gently apply the cement to where the glue is required to go, rather than to try and smash it out, because it just adds the perfect amount. Less is more with regards to assembly, especially with plastic cement. And I find that, being able to dab excess off a brush on the edge of the pot works better for me than trying to grab that tip of the syringe and then squeezing and then a truckload just coming out, right? Because you never know when it's blocked or minimally blocked, and some people take to it with a lighter before they use it, and that works as well, right? But getting minimal amount and always being able to add more, especially on smaller like Death Corps of Freak models or Cassican or Jeet Steel Occults is better. So dabbing definitely better than squeezing half a bottle out on your model.
A one that it's took me a long while to get good at doing as well is look after your paintbrushes. It sounds one of the things early, the mistake you make is you get too much paint on your brush and you get it right up to the basically all the bristles right up to the glue and stuff into the paint. You don't need to. Just always using the tip of the brush and taking the time to dry it off and a little bit of water and just keep that tip smooth. One, it'll save you heaps of money on brushes, because you'll always be like, why does my brushes always look like a broom now? But it'll help your painting a lot too, being able to keep the tip to it as well. So sounds like weird to be like, look after your brushes, but they're like any tool. the more you look after them, the better they'll treat you as well. And you don't have to have crazy expensive ones. If you look after them, they can last a lot longer that way too.
And the rule is the paint doesn't go past halfway up the bristles, right, Rhys? Just
Correct.
into that little bulb.
Yep, exactly. Because then if you've got more than that on your brush, you've got too much paint. You're not going to, even when you're applying that, it's not going to come out in a nice, consistent sort of way. So yeah, using that, and then obviously finding a way to do that, whether you've got like a little paint pad or a wet palette, wherever you sort of start at, is a great way of just getting small amounts of the paint and then actually painting on that before it goes to the model, making sure you've got a little bit of water in the paint so it transfers nicely. Those little techniques will add up. You'll get better. And again, consistency is key. Just keep doing it and you get better and better for sure.
Oh, definitely. And wet palettes are something that people swear by now as well, right?
Yeah. Yep. I was probably much later convert than I should have been. Looking back now, I'm like, should have been on this bandwagon from the get-go. But it's amazing. It saves you paint. It helps you get that lot more consistency with how much paint you're putting on the model. And that's one of the biggest lessons. Like I made a skit joking about one of my Space Marines who had 19 layers of thick green Dark Angels paint on it. But lo and behold, that's what happens when you paint with heaps in it. You don't quite realize that if you don't get those paints a bit thinner, you lose your details and you'll look back and go, what was I doing?
Too thin coats, mate. Too thin coats.
Too thin coats. Thanks, Duncan.
And sorry, we talked about contrasts, and I've seen a lot of people actually use silicone fidget poppers as painting pots for contrasts. Is that something that you recommend as well? Like almost like a mixing pot that are silicone for contrasts. I've seen people use those as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely having that thing, because I mean, obviously it can be that thing sometimes if you're having the pots open all the time. One, you're danger zone of what I do, knocking them over all the time. But being able to, again, control the paint. So having little containers or silicone holders that are going to enable you to judge how much paint you're getting and mix it, or if you're wanting to add a little bit of water or contrast medium to thin it down, if you're wanting to turn them into washes and things like that. Yeah, definitely. They're great. I mean, there's a lot of paint supplies out there and lots of different options out there. So don't be afraid to get some of those little paint palettes to give them a go and see if that works for you as well. Because if you're not going to be using a wet palette, at times you might want to try, what if I mix these two colors, or I don't have a color for a highlight, but if I mix some white in. So having little vessels and containers that you can actually consistently mix up little bunches of paint is a great idea too.
Awesome. Thanks, Rhys. Rhys, we're coming up to the top of the hour. If people want to get across you, your content, Kill Team Casuals, how do they follow you? What channels have you got available on what platforms?
Well, if you are so inclined, I do appreciate it if you are. You can check me out on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Threes to Wound is the moniker, if you will. Same across all three channels there. And, of course, the Kill Team Casuals. Weirdly, if you're looking it up, we're actually on YouTube under the Casual Wargamers. It's Casual Wargamers does Kill Team Casuals, basically.
Casuals, right.
Kill Team Casuals. Wherever you listen to your podcasts, we're on, obviously, YouTube, I said, under Casual Wargamers. And we are, as the Kill Team Casuals, also on Twitch as well. So when we go live on Twitch and YouTube. So you can join us on either of those there. We see both the chats, and we love it when people come join in. Usually if you're in Australia, it's on a Tuesday morning. If you're in the US or UK, it'll be your Monday night. Usually the night we get our act together.
Nice. And are we expecting an episode tomorrow?
That's the plan. So far, no one's bailed yet. So fingers crossed we'll get the Holy Trinity. We'll get all three of us there. But we'll see. We will, at least two of us will get there. We'll see who's the one who bows out this time.
That's awesome. And Rhys, any final shout outs, people you want to call out? Any call outs for any events coming up or anything like that?
Oh, well, I mean, look, I would obviously shout out to yourself. Obviously, I've gone up to Sydney any time that are the Good Times Rolled events. Every chance I get, I love coming up to Sydney to play alongside you guys. So definitely, if you listen to this podcast, you're curious about events, it's one of the best places to start. And I'm not just saying that because I'm on the show. Mhbanz also paid me. So those two things have led me to tell you. No, but it's true. It's some of my first tournaments were coming up to Sydney to play because you made it seem like such a welcoming and amazing proposition. And I wanted to get out there and meet lots of people and get amongst the community. And the events are fantastic and second to none, mate. So yeah, you're doing some great stuff there, bringing the Australian Kill Team community together, and I love it.
Thank you so much, mate. That's way too kind of you. That's way too kind of you. Rhys, thanks so much for being such an amazing special guest on the show. It was great to have you here. Your insights have been phenomenal. Next episode is going to be about putting your models on the table and having your first game with another amazing guest. So I can't wait for that one. But thanks, and I look forward to speaking with you soon, mate.
Definitely, mate. Can't wait. Good luck for the next episode.
Thank you, mate.